Thanks for stopping by. I want to talk about something that's very important, and this was sparked by the last video that John Eagle uploaded. If you haven't taken a look at it, it's Trooper Rages at Driver DUI Checkpoint. We're going to look at some of this, but it kind of left some questions that I had in my mind about the nature of DUI checkpoints, the authority that hides behind DUI checkpoints. Is it constitutional? What does the Supreme Court say about it? Do DUI checkpoints keep us safe? If DUI checkpoints keep us safe, are we losing our freedoms in the process? And so what's more important, safety or liberty? Does the safety, if there is safety to be had by DUI checkpoints, does that trump individual rights? And if it does, why don't we suspend more rights so that we can have more safety? And then what's the limit? Where do people stop on that? I don't think people can stop. Once you give an authoritarian an inch, you know that he's going to take the proverbial mile. Actually, not even proverbial and metaphorical, the literal mile. He will take all that he can as long as you let him. So that's why I love First Amendment auditors, because they're holding these people at bay and going, hey, this is not lawful. What you are doing is a violation of the oath that you actually took, which makes you a hypocrite, which means you're the bottom of the barrel human being. As far as, if we were to look at like a graph of humanity, you'd be under the chart, man. So in my opinion, we have, whoa, what just happened? What just happened? Oh. In my opinion, we have the illusion of choice in our political system. We have the illusion of prosperity in our monetary system, and we have the illusion of freedom in our judicial system. And I'm going to explain. What sparked this is when I was watching John Eagle's video, and then he posted this up on the screen right here, this little part in the video. And then we're going to watch how this guy's getting abused by this cop. This is from the Supreme Court case called Michigan Department of State Police versus SITS, which we're going to take a look at. And stay tuned, because it's kind of fascinating how they, perform this hocus pocus illusion magic trick to try to convince everybody that the intrusions on your rights are just minor. They're just slight. Yeah, but are they infringement? Is it a violation of your freedoms? They're actually saying, yes, it is, but it's okay to do this in this situation because of safety, because of public safety. Public safety will always be the alibi of any kind of tyrant you meet. They're not going to come on the scene going, well, I want you to be unsafe. I want you to be unfree. I'm here to take away your freedoms. He's always going to take away your freedoms under the cover of keeping you safe. We know this. That's why Benjamin Franklin wrote, those who give away essential liberty. Think about that. Essential liberty. Liberty is your life. If you give away your life for politically promised security, which historically speaking never comes, you deserve neither liberty nor security nor safety. So the quote that John Eagle threw up on the screen right here, I thought was intriguing, because it says, quote, preventing alcohol-related death and mutilation. They had to make it real. You want to stop alcohol-related death, don't you? Well, how about mutilation? You want to stop mutilation on the public highways, don't you? Well, you want mutilation on the public highways. So it makes you look bad if you're against a DUI checkpoint, because basically they're going to frame you as being the bad bottom of the barrel person when it's actually the tyrant who's being the bottom of the barrel person, because now you're for alcohol related deaths. And nobody said that. It's just, hey, you're giving me a choice. Hey, alcohol related deaths or DUI checkpoints, and never the twain shall meet. Like there's no intermediary position there. There's no third position that I could possibly take and still be standing on the moral high ground. So they said, preventing alcohol-related deaths and mutilation on the nation's roads outweighed the slight intrusion on drivers stopped at sobriety checkpoints. So we're going to watch this real quick. You've probably already seen it. John Eagle's doing a really good job putting out some really educational content out there. But watch how this lunatic badged uniform tyrant acts toward this guy just driving down the road trying to mind his own business.
Papers, please. Papers, please. Papers, please.
Exactly. Papers, please. Papers. I need to see your papers. You're not free to go until I see your papers.
Evening, officer.
Good evening.
Before we continue, I'd just like to let you know that you are being recorded right now.
Okay, that's fine.
So I would just like to know why I'm being pulled over.
We're doing a roadside safety check.
Okay.
Okay.
Am I being detained?
What's that?
Am I being detained?
Well, right now we're just conducting our job, making sure
Okay.
that everyone's on the road driving safely.
Okay. Is that
Yes, you are not free to leave right now.
so far? Everybody's being safe.
And there is the question that I wanted to ask. Do you still maintain freedoms at a DUI checkpoint? When he says you're not free to leave, when he's basically saying, I'm going to force you into an interaction with me. Oh, you don't want to interact with me? Too bad, too sad. See this gleamy badge? I got authority over you. Do you think you have freedom on American soil during a DUI checkpoint? It should be obvious that you don't.
Am I being detained then?
You're not free to leave.
Am I
Okay?
being detained?
Not free.
If I'm not free to leave, then you're suspecting me of committing a crime. Then am I being detained?
Oh, I'm sorry, officer. Did I cross some kind of boundary into Mexico or something? I thought I was in America. We just got back from a game last night. We were singing the land of the free and the home of the I guess I'm not in America anymore, huh? Not free to leave.
Making sure that everybody's driving safely.
Oh, I understand. Thank you for
Now, I've explained
doing
myself.
your job. Absolutely.
Okay. And we do have the legal right to stop you right now.
Oh, I
So
believe this is
okay, hold on,
unconstitutional,
hold on, I'm
but
speaking. Now, like I said, I've asked you for your driver's license and proof of
you
insurance.
actually didn't
Now,
ask
please
me
give it
for
to me.
my driver's license, but I'm actually not obligated to provide that if I'm not being detained.
What? You are obligated. You're obligated. Get out now. Get out now. Driving's a privilege,
Sir.
not a right. I'm telling you to get out right now.
Excuse me, I'm not.
We asked for your
resisting at all.
license and insurance. Yes, you are resisting
I
at
can
this
provide.
point.
No, sir, I
Then
can
give us
provide.
When I first saw this a little while ago, this is a couple years old, I think. But when I first saw this, the first thing that popped into my mind is, officer, have you been drinking tonight? Listen to what he said. You are ID. Driving's a privilege, not a right. It's like, what have you been tapping into, man, little Jack?
Get out now. Get out now. Driving's a privilege,
Sir.
not a right. I'm telling you to get out right now.
Excuse me, I'm not.
We asked for your
resisting at all.
license and insurance. Yes, you are resisting
I
at
can
this
provide.
point.
No, sir, I
Then
can
give us your
provide it.
license and insurance,
Absolutely.
like he was asked.
Absolutely, sir. This is my license here.
Okay, now get your insurance. That's
Okay.
required by law.
All right.
Driving's a privilege, not a right.
Absolutely, sir. I completely
We're not going to
agree.
sit here and debate with you.
Okay, well, this is very unconstitutional what you're doing.
No, you know what?
And-
This is not unconstitutional. I already explained it to you. Driving's
Sir.
a privilege and
Doesn't
not...
it make you want to get like this close to his nose and just start doing the drill? So he looks like, what was that thing called? Platoon, or what was that movie where he's getting real close? Let me tell you what, Sergeant, I'm your sergeant. I'm your mother. I'm your father. You know, it's like you want to get right into his face and give him what he's giving you.
the right.
Understood. This is my driver's
Good.
license, my
Thank
insurance
you.
card. You're welcome.
That's what you're required to do to drive in Illinois.
Sir,
Do you understand that?
Absolutely.
Do you understand
I would
that?
also like to inform you that you are being recorded right now.
Good.
Okay. Can I please
You were
shut my door?
asked. No.
Since I'm not being detained.
No.
What am I being detained for exactly, sir? If I am
We
being
asked for your
detained.
driver's license and insurance card, which you're required to have when you drive in the state of Illinois.
Understood.
Correct?
Correct. That is correct.
That's
and
what
I
you
do
were asked
and I
for.
do have that, correct?
Yeah, thank you, Patty. Full Metal Jacket. That's right.
I did.
I don't
just
know.
gave that to
I'm
you.
looking at it. You refused to
I
write
did
it
not
originally,
refuse.
didn't
The
you?
guy can't even talk. Wait a second. You're conducting a DUI checkpoint? You're asking people to get out of the car to do a sobriety test? I think you would fail it, Ossifer.
Absolutely not. I did not refuse anything.
Is this your current address?
I asked. I would not like
Is
to
this
answer
your
any.
current
I'd like
address?
to remain silent, sir, unless I have an attorney present.
Is this your current address?
I would like to remain silent, sir. I would like to exercise my Fifth Amendment right.
Do you have a more?
And then he didn't. He didn't. See, if you're going to say that, then do it. If you are going to invoke your Fifth Amendment right to be silent, shut the frick up. Don't say anything else. Okay, so I did a little digging, and at least in the state of Tennessee and various other states, maybe all the states, I don't know. If they do a DUI checkpoint, according to their regulations, you are required to provide driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance. You're required to show it. You don't have to give it. There's no law saying you have to roll your window down. If you ever go through, by the way, DUI checkpoint is also an option. If you have a way to get out of the DUI checkpoint, according to at least the one that I saw in Tennessee and another state, if you have the opportunity to detour around it or make a legal U-turn without, crossing the double yellow line or causing a traffic accident or putting people in jeopardy, you are free, according to their rules. I'm just going by their rules. You're free to do that. Oh, Dakota says hi. Look at that little guy. Dakota says hello. His eye's getting really bad there. See his eye right there. Oh, he's snuggling. He's snuggling. All right, there you go, buddy. There you go. That's what you hear in the background there. So you're required to give that according to their laws. Not relinquish it, but just show it. So and I'm not giving any legal advice, but from what I've seen from lawyers, if you choose to go through a DUI checkpoint, one of the first things you have to do is make sure that you lock your door. This guy didn't do this. You do not have to roll your window down. It is not a law that I've seen in any state. You can crack your window when they ask for your driver's license, registration, proof of insurance. You can show it to them. You can put it up against the window or whatever. They do not have to have it in their hands. Now, your state could be different, so you should check it out. This is if you decide to. And the fourth thing is, it's probably a good idea, unless you know what you're doing, to shut the frick up, invoke your Fifth Amendment right, and then just ignore them. You've given them everything that they've asked for. You've stopped at their stupid checkpoint. You've relinquished your rights. Now, if you choose to engage with them, like some people do, like if it's Big Nick, South Florida Accountability, or SJVT, or Direct D, or people who know how to talk to cops, then hey, that's going to make for an entertaining video while you're asserting your rights and questioning this buffoon on why he's acting like this is North Korea, not America. Otherwise, if you don't know what you're doing, the best thing to do is nothing. Just shut up. Just be quiet. So this guy basically broke all the rules. Now he's exposed because his door is open. And because they're psychopaths, don't expect them not to pull you out of your car, because they'll do it at the drop of a hat.
Current insurance card. I would like to exercise my Fifth Amendment right. Everything there.
Yeah, exactly. There's a couple other things checkpoints have to have. They have to basically tell the people in the community that it's going to happen, the date it's going to happen, the time it's going to happen, the time frame that it's going to happen. Like it's supposed to be from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. or whatever. It's supposed to have traffic cones. It's supposed to be well lit. There's this whole litany of things that they have to ensure that they do according to their own laws to make it a legit traffic stop. All the cops, they can't be out of uniform. They have to be uniformed. You have to be able to identify them and all this kind of stuff that they got to obey. The bottom line is you've still lost your rights during this traffic stop on American soil. That's the bottom line. And then we're going to see what the Supreme Court says, which is completely hypocritical because they base it off of reasonable, articulable suspicion. Listen to this.
Isn't completely valid and legal, and I'd like to exercise my Fifth Amendment right from here on out, unless I have an attorney. What was that? I would like to exercise my Fifth Amendment right from here on out, unless I have an attorney. What does the Fifth Amendment say? That I have the right to remain silent. Really? Absolutely. Are you sure? Yes, sir.
Slams his frickin' door. Now he locks his door. Too late, man.
Thank you. Am I free to leave? On. Yes, thank you. You guys have a great night.
So he has lost all of his freedoms. And I constantly use the term American soil, but think about it. This soil is supposed to be governed by the law of the land. The law of the land is not a uniformed human being with a tin badge and a utility belt. The law of the land is supposed to be that Constitution enshrined in, the National Archives or wherever it's at, under 24-hour, 7-day-a-week guard. But in actuality, that's not the supreme law of the land, because as of 1803 with Marbury versus Madison, the corrupt black-robed tyrants of the Supreme Court declared themselves to have the power of judicial review. In other words, they can look at that Constitution that's in the National Archive and they'll tell you what it means, and they'll tell you if the laws that they created transgress that. And that brings us to Michigan Department of State Police versus SITS from 1990. So I want to read some of this to you, but stay tuned because I think you'll find this very interesting, because there's a phrase in there that they use that basically it gums them up. It's the wrench in the gears of what's supposed to be the justice system, which ends up being the injustice system. They say petitioners concede correctly in our view. Now listen to this, that the Fourth Amendment seizure occurs when a vehicle is stopped at a checkpoint. So automatically when they stop you at a checkpoint, according to the Supreme Court, in their opinion, a seizure has occurred, which I'm going to show you is a violation of the Fourth Amendment, but they're going to say it's not a violation because it's a reasonable seizure. And I'll show you the springboard from which they capitalize on people's ignorance. And it's almost like you can't fight against City Hall on this one. It's like they're the Supreme Court. Oh, wait a second, but the law of the land said, yeah, but the Supreme Court determined that the law of the land meant that the Fourth Amendment allows for a DUI checkpoint. It's utter nonsense. This whole judicial system, executive branch and legislative branch that we have is basically the House stacked against you. You're not going to win. The House makes the rules and you're going to walk out with less money. It's this casino. It's the judicial casino that always works in their favor. They'll give you some crumbs every now and then to make it look like they're, working in the interest of justice. But overall, we've lost it. We have lost it. It says it's agreed that the checkpoint stops are seizures within the meaning of the Fourth Amendment. Say the Black Road Tyrants. Mere human beings are saying this. People like you and me. Fourth Amendment seizures occur, quote, when there's a governmental termination of freedom of movement through means intentionally applied. Get this. They're admitting this. Fourth Amendment seizures occur when there is a governmental termination of freedom of movement through means intentionally applied. It is governmental termination of freedom. What is a DUI checkpoint? According to the Supreme Court, it's governmental termination of freedom. You have no freedoms when you stop at a checkpoint. You actually cease to be an American from the eyes of the judiciary. That's freaking scary stuff. And it even addresses later on in here in this Michigan Department of State Police versus SITS, the fear that happens in the heart of man when they are stopped at a DUI checkpoint. It is important to recognize that what our inquiry is not about. They're saying this case is not about, no allegations are before us as of unreasonable treatment of any person after an actual detention at a particular checkpoint. And then they say, as pursued in the lower courts, because when SITS took this to court, the lower court, the Supreme Court of the state of Michigan, actually ruled in SITS' favor. And then the Michigan Department of State Police appealed it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, DUI checkpoints are within the purview of the Fourth Amendment. The Michigan Superior Court says, nope, this isn't constitutional. And the Supreme Court said, yeah, it damn well is. It is constitutional, you morons. As pursued in the lower courts, the instant action challenges not only the use of sobriety checkpoints generally, we address only the initial stop of each motorist passing through a checkpoint and the associated preliminary questioning and observation by checkpoint officers. So they're saying the initial stop is within the framework of the Fourth Amendment and does not violate your Fourth Amendment right to be secure in your person's houses, papers, and effects. Which is a lie. It's a freaking lie, in my opinion. You tell me, if you think that a DUI checkpoint violates Fourth Amendment freedoms, put a 1 in the room. If you think that a DUI checkpoint does not violate Fourth Amendment freedoms, put a 2 in the room. No one can seriously, here's the thing that John Eagle put in his video. This is part of it. No one, they're speaking for everyone. No one can seriously dispute the magnitude of the drunken driving problem or the state's interest in eradicating it. Do you really think the state, the government, who's constantly on your back, siphoning all of your time and laboring energies through taxation, which is nothing but theft, it's extortion by the barrel of a government gun. Do you think the state is really interested in making you safer, or are they interested in exercising control and generating revenue? That's a legitimate question, I think. Media reports of alcohol-related death and mutilation on the nation's roads are legion. The anecdotal is confirmed by the statistical. Drunk drivers cause an annual death toll of over 25,000 people. And that is bad, guys. I don't want drunk drivers out on the road. You don't want drunk drivers. You don't want to be out on the road when a drunk driver's out there. You don't want anybody that you love and care for to be, jeopardized and put at risk by drunk drivers. That's not the issue. We all know that drinking and driving is bad. You're a dumb arse if you do it. You got no sense in your head. Who the frick do you think you are putting everybody else's life in jeopardy if you're drunk and you're driving? It's nonsense. So nobody here is supporting that. On the other end, is the answer state intervention? Do we need mommy and daddy government to step in and save us from the horrible drunk drivers? I don't think that's the answer. I would way rather have dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery. But is freedom always dangerous? And is slavery always peaceful? These are questions we just got to come to our own personal conclusion on. It says, a treatise of the Fourth Amendment. For decades, this court has repeatedly lamented this tragedy of drinking and driving. Conversely, the weight bearing on the other scale, the measure of the intrusion on motorists stopped briefly at sobriety checkpoints, is slight. What are they doing here? They're minimizing your rights. They're minimizing your freedoms. And in essence, and basically, fundamentally, they're minimizing your life. The Supreme Court goes, yeah, it's an intrusion, but it's slight. It's a slight intrusion. It's a slight infringement. It's a slight violation. Yeah, but it's still a violation, right? They're literally admitting that it is a violation and it's an intrusion, but it's slight. In other words, it's acceptable. We, the black robe tyrants of the Supreme Court, determined that it's acceptable to intrude upon your rights for the safety of the public on the open highways. It's bunk. It's bunk. You know how many rights have been lost under the umbrella of, we're just keeping you safe? We reached a similar conclusion as to the intrusion on motorists subjected to a brief stop at a highway checkpoint for detecting illegal aliens in Martinez Fuerte. We see virtually no difference between the levels of intrusion on law-abiding motorists from the brief stops necessary to the effectuation of these two types of checkpoints, which to the average motorist would seem identical, save for the nature of the questions the checkpoint officers might ask, which, by the way, you are free to not answer, according to the Fifth Amendment. You're free to invoke your Fifth Amendment right to be silent anytime they ask you. You don't have to answer one of their questions. Have you been drinking? How much have you had to drink? Where have you come from? Where are you going? What is your birth date? Is the address on the license that you displayed through your almost closed window correct? You don't have to answer any of those questions. You can invoke and should invoke your right to be silent. You cannot be compelled to testify against yourself because they are under an investigation against you. You're not compelled to help them in their investigation of you at all. The trial court and the Court of Appeals thus accurately gauged the objective intrusion. They're calling it an intrusion, and they're calling it an objective, factual, observable intrusion into your Fourth Amendment rights. But it's slight, so we accept it. And you need to accept it too. Now it's the law of the land. Really? Oh, I thought the law of the land was the Fourth Amendment, was the Constitution, was the Bill of Rights. No, it's our determination and our ability to read the Constitution to you. And it's our interpretation that's the law of the land. You misunderstood the Constitution there, Sonny. Measured by the duration of the seizure and the intensity of the investigation is minimal. See, they're always downplaying this tyranny that they're trying to foist against us and have foisted against us. With respect to what is perceived to be the subjective intrusion on motorists, however, the Court of Appeals found such intrusion substantial. In other words, the lower courts, the Supreme Court is saying the lower courts found that the DUI checkpoint was unconstitutional. We, on the other hand, are the black robe tyrants that we are, we came up with a different opinion. Refer back to Marbury versus Madison, 1803. We grant ourselves the power of judicial review. The court first affirmed that the trial court's finding that the guidelines governing checkpoints operation minimized the discretion of the officers on the scene, but the court also agreed that the trial court's conclusion that the checkpoints have the potential to generate fear and surprise in motorists. I wonder why. So now they're going to go at the heart of the motorist who's being stopped at the checkpoint, which is true. I mean, how many of you, your heart kind of skips a beat? You know you didn't do anything wrong. You know you're doing the speed limit. You know you're driving in a vehicle that's functioning properly. The brake lights are working. The tag lights are working. You're not veering in and out of traffic. You've used your turn signals when you're supposed to, but they get behind you anyway. And they don't even have to turn the blue lights on. You're chicken hawking them. You're looking at them going, oh my God, you're watching your speed. You're dropping it 2 or 3 miles an hour below the speed limit just in case their calibration's off on the radar machine. You're trying to cross your T's and dot your I's. Your chest is beating because you know if they pull you over and this armed man, this armed psychopath steps up to your vehicle, your life hangs in the balance. That's true. It's objectively true. And we have proof on the internet that shows that it is true. You don't have to take my word for it. Your life is in jeopardy at each and every traffic stop. So let me just read this again. The court first affirmed it says, the court also agreed with the trial court's conclusion that the checkpoints have the potential to generate fear and surprise in motorists. This was so because the record failed to demonstrate that approaching motorists would be aware of their option to make U-turns or turnoffs to avoid the checkpoint. So they agree that they actually affirm right there that you have the option while they didn't corral you into that cone to shoot, you are able, if you can, to safely, stand within the parameters of all the traffic rules to make a U-turn and detour away from that checkpoint. Most people don't know that, I would contend. Most people don't know. They think, oh, that checkpoint's on the road and I'm going in this direction, so I got to stop at this checkpoint. No, you don't. You can make a legal U-turn and get away. And if they try to chase you, you can show them that the Supreme Court and Michigan Department of State Police versus SITS and other court cases, that they don't have authority over you just because you decided to not participate in their little Nazi checkpoint. On that basis, the court deemed the subjective intrusion from checkpoints unreasonable. That's the lower court. And then they say, we believe the Michigan courts misread our cases concerning the degree of subjective intrusion and the potential for generating fear and surprise. The fear and surprise to be considered are not the natural fear of one who has been drinking over the prospect of being stopped at a sobriety checkpoint, but rather the fear and surprise engendered in law-abiding motorists by the nature of the stop. See, they even see. You know you're innocent, but the cops are going to stop you anyway. Fear and surprise. There you go. So what do the courts admit and what do the cops admit that their presence generates? Fear and surprise. And they love it. They love that you fear the government. When you fear the government, there's tyranny. When they fear you, there is liberty. There is more truth to that than we can ever realize. And let me just show you, this is another stop that happened in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Murfreesboro, Tennessee are my stomping grounds. That's where I went to college at MTSU. But watch how this driver handles this DUI checkpoint in Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
So we're about to roll through this checkpoint.
That's up ahead.
The other sign out. At least the sign's not tipped over this time like it was before.
This is going to show you what not to do.
Can you run it down, please?
That's fine.
I'm Officer Benson with the Murfreesboro Police Department. This is the field sobriety checkpoint. Have you had anything to drink tonight?
I do not have to answer that question.
This is the field sobriety checkpoint.
I understand
we're
that, but I
conducting
don't have to
the
answer
field sobriety
that
checkpoint to ensure that. Okay, why don't you pull over right there for me? Pull in that parking lot.
In the parking lot?
Yes, please.
Okay.
You actually don't have to.
What's a field sobriety checkpoint?
I think she just made that up, honestly.
That is kind of weird. This is not a DUI checkpoint. This is a field sobriety checkpoint. That's a really weird way to put that.
Remember, just if she tells you to get out of the car, just say, am I being detained?
Should I turn the vehicle around?
I would just pull up here, like in these parking spaces.
I don't want to be trapped.
Yeah. I mean, this is fine right here.
What's going on, brother?
Sergeant Cox, Murfreesboro Police Department, okay? This officer's going to ask you to step out. Need you to step out, step back here to the rear of the car. All right, take field sobriety, okay? Leave the car running. We'll leave the windows up for them because I don't need them freezing to death, okay? We do need you to step out, step back here for
Am I
me,
being
okay?
detained?
Yes, sir, you are.
Now, somebody could say, well, the officer gave you a lawful command because of Pennsylvania v. Mims and you got to step out of the car. But the reason the cop wants him to step out of the car is not because he's fearing for his safety, but because he wants to conduct a sobriety check. So my question to you is, given the parameters and given the context of this stop and the request by the police officer to this person behind the wheel, is he required at this point to get out of his truck because the officer told him he needed to get out of the truck? Does this fall within the purview of Pennsylvania v. Mims? Does this officer fear for his life or fear for his safety, or is he afraid he's not going to make it home tonight to his children? Does this fall under Pennsylvania v. Mims? Or can this guy say, nothing? What do you need from me? All I'm required to give to you is my license, registration, proof of insurance. I don't even know if I would say that. Let them say it and then just produce it. You don't have to hand it to them. So is there probable cause that a crime has been committed? Is there even reasonable articulable suspicion from Terry v. Ohio? These are just questions that I have. What do you guys think? Should he step out of the vehicle? He's going to step out of the vehicle. In my opinion, he made a big mistake by doing that. He's going to participate in the field sobriety test. From what I've seen, lawyers who know their stuff, not a good idea to submit to a field sobriety test. Matter of fact, I've seen lawyers say you're not obligated to and don't ever submit to a field sobriety test because it's stacked against you. It's designed to get you to fail. So what do you guys think? Jules, thanks for becoming a member. I appreciate everybody becoming a member. I appreciate all the Patreon supporters. I appreciate all the likes and the shares and the comments. I really appreciate it, guys. Let's get back to this here.
What crime have I committed to be?
Sir?
What crime have I committed to be detained?
You've been drinking. This is a field sobriety checkpoint, okay? Then just step out of your car,
Sir, how
please.
did you confirm that I was drinking?
Sir?
How have you confirmed that I've been drinking?
Name and badge number.
You smell it for one, okay? Like I said, the officer detected it and need you to step out of the car.
Okay.
And that is another good reason not to roll your window down and to make sure your doors are locked. Listen, this guy makes the accusation that this guy has been drinking with no probable cause, no reasonable articulable suspicion, which, by the way, we're going to define, so stay tuned. The courts have defined reasonable suspicion and probable cause and what the difference is. And it's good to know the difference so you can perform a little legalese judo on these nincompoops.
To be detained.
You've been drinking. This is a field sobriety checkpoint, okay? Then just step out of your car,
Sir,
please.
how did you confirm that I was drinking?
Sir?
How have you confirmed that I've been drinking?
Name and badge number.
You smell it for one, okay? Like I said, the officer detected it and need you to step out of the car.
Okay, can I get a name and badge number?
269 Sergeant Cox.
Okay. Looks like I don't have much of a choice here.
No, he said you're muted.
Thank you, sir, very much.
Keep the camera.
No, you got a choice. You got a choice.
Officer, please, take care of it. Guys, I'm going to roll this window up so you can stay warm.
Nope, keep it down. We want to hear what's going on, actually.
Okay, no problem.
All right.
I just didn't want you guys freezing to death.
I appreciate that,
though. You said one thing, whatever you said the other one, all right?
I appreciate it.
It's not a problem, fellas, okay?
All right, thanks.
That cop had no right reaching his hand into the truck to roll that window up. No right at all. Went way overboard there.
He's at this point.
This guy is submitting to a field sobriety test. Submitting to a field sobriety test. It makes me mad, man.
And take their blood without their consent. Keep in mind, he has not drank at all. And they said they smelled alcohol on him, so they're obviously lying.
Hey, can I ask you a question real quick? Hey, what's a field sobriety checkpoint? That's a new one on me.
Say again?
What's a field sobriety checkpoint? The female officer identified as a field sobriety checkpoint. What is that?
She'll explain it to you.
Okay.
What did you say?
He said she'll explain.
going on?
Keep rolling.
All right, so we got to find a place to park.
There you go. All right. Stay warm. What you got?
Okay,
Yes, sir.
number one, as officers, when you became officers, did you not swear an oath to uphold the Constitution?
We uphold the law. Okay, these are deemed to be legal in the state of Tennessee. Okay, and anytime you enter a checkpoint, the officer just says that they detect the odor of alcohol come from the car. Okay, which you said you've been drinking doesn't mean you're drunk. Okay,
I never said that.
well, because you didn't have to. Okay, then we're going to pull you out of the car. All right, talk to you for a minute, conduct a series of field sobriety tests. If you're not intoxicated, you're free to go. If you're intoxicated,
Who are these people? How can they take this job? How can they go home to their families and, the wife say, honey, what'd you do today? Well, I violated people's rights all night. I know they don't believe they've violated people's rights, but they have. When you're saying, I don't write the laws, I just enforce them. When they say, hey, I'm just doing what I'm told, I'm doing what I'm hired to do, that's no different than what they said at the Nuremberg trials. It doesn't absolve you of the crimes you commit while you're obeying and upholding the laws. You've become this conformist that makes the world a worse place instead of the moralist that makes the world a better place. You're doing what you're told regardless of what is right. You know it's unconstitutional. You know when you read the Supreme Court ruling and Michigan Department of State Police versus SITS that they made an unconstitutional ruling. You know that. You don't have to have anybody tell you that.
then unfortunately we have to do our job, which is enforce the law and arrest you for DUI. As you can see,
how much evil has entered the world through I'm just doing my job.
Out, gave you a couple real quick tests. Okay, we've been courteous, we've been kind, we're cutting you loose. You're ready to go.
I have a question.
We're courteous, kind tyrants with a smile on our face. Well, guess what? Courteous, kind, smiley tyranny is still tyranny. Hey, how many rights do you want to lose? I'll tell you what. We're just going to take a little bit off the top. Now, you just be still, boy. I'm going to take a little bit of your rights away, and this is all for safety. It's just slight. That's what the Supreme Court's saying. They're like, hey, it's just a slight intrusion on your liberty. Just hold still. We're going to yank it. We're about to yank it. You won't hardly feel a thing. You're going to lose some rights, but hey, it's for the safety and well-being of everybody else. It's just nonsense, man. I feel like we live in a land of morons. It's like the perpetual set of idiocracy.
Question for you, sir.
One last question. How much did this Freedom trailer here cost the American taxpayers?
Not sure, sir. It's not our trailer, so I wouldn't know.
Oh, whose jurisdiction is that trailer?
That would be Smyrna.
Smyrna, and they are here in Murfreesboro city limits.
No,
Why?
sir, they're not in Murfreesboro city limits. They are here tonight working with us, yes. In coalition with the
Anyway, it just continues on. I don't want to extend this. By the way, before I leave this right here, make sure you give John Eagle some love. John Eagle, is John Eagle in the room right now? I thought I saw him. Here's John Eagle's link. If you are not subscribed to John Eagle, you really should, because he is putting out some good content and he deserves views. Anybody who's doing this right here should be able to make a living from it. And we need more people making a living from this, because this is how we educate people. And when people get knowledge through videos like this, they increase in power. And when the people increase in power, they rival the power of the state. And that's what we need. We need the government to fear the people, and we need to stop having the people fear the government. That's the only way we're going to carve out liberty. Now, one of the things that I wanted to show you here was it was actually... You can read this whole Michigan Department of State Police versus SITS, and there's a really good, and Wikipedia, it's hit and miss, but they got a really good summary of this. And I want to show you from my reading of Michigan Department of State Police versus SITS, this is basically what they're saying. And I think it's hilarious. Welcome, Firm Audits. Thank you for becoming a member. It says Supreme Court held that Michigan had a substantial government interest to advance in stopping drunk driving, and that this technique was rationally related to achieving that goal, though there was some evidence to the contrary. And that's why the lower court said, no, this is unconstitutional, which they were right. The court also held that the impact on drivers, such as delaying them from reaching their destination, was negligible. Says who? What if I gotta be there? What if I'm 2 minutes late? Because if you're 25-second or 50-second detention, I'm going to lose a job. Or I'm going to miss seeing my mom in the last moments of her life while she's hooked up to some hospital ventilator. Says who that it was negligible? That's what I cannot stand when somebody presumes to put their lives in your hands and saying, that didn't hurt. That didn't hurt. Don't worry. That was just slight. There's not going to be any lasting effects. That was negligible. Who are you to determine what's negligible in my life? This is psychopathy, guys. Presuming to speak for someone else and how slight of an intrusion you're going to incur on their lives? You kidding me? Says the court also upheld that the impact on drivers, such as delaying them from reaching their destination, was negligible, and that the brief questioning to gain reasonable suspicion similarly had a negligible impact on drivers. Well, if you look at the Fourth Amendment, it says the right of the people to be the right, not the privilege. It's not been granted to you. And as many people say, I use the term unalienable or inalienable, and people are like, you're saying it wrong, man. You're articulating wrong, and you're saying it wrong, and you're mutilating the true meaning of the word. So let me just say it the way people want me to say it. Unalienable. You cannot put a lien on it. Nobody's got the right to put a lien on or tamper with your rights. So the right of the people, the unalienable right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. See, that's why I hate the wording of the Fourth Amendment. Who is going to put themselves in the driver's seat to be able to determine what the definition is of unreasonable and how it's to be lived out properly? And who's going to determine when I interject my definition for unreasonable, I'm going to declare it constitutional, and then you can't fight it? The Supreme Court made the decision and now it's set in stone? What the frick is going on in our reality? Against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. And in addition to this, no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause. So you have the right to be secure in your persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures, and it shall not be violated. No warrant shall issue but upon probable cause. They don't even have reasonable articulable suspicion. And according to this right here, it says the court also held that the impact on drivers, such as delaying them from reaching their destination, was negligible, and that the brief questioning to gain reasonable suspicion similarly had a negligible impact on drivers, admitting that they don't even have reasonable suspicion to stop you. The reason they're stopping you is to find out if they have reasonable suspicion to stop you. It's like, why did you stop me, officer? Well, we pulled you over and stopped you to try to figure out why we pulled you over and stopped you. Well, that makes no sense. That makes no sense at all. And that should give every one of us just, make us hot under the collar. So they are allowed to, for a brief questioning to gain reasonable suspicion, similarly had a negligible impact on drivers. Fourth Amendment right. Okay, negligible impact, but it did have an impact, didn't it? So not only are they admitting they don't have reasonable suspicion to pull you over, that's why they pulled you over to find out if they had reasonable suspicion, and they're saying that there was an impact on your Fourth Amendment right, which is not supposed to be impacted on or infringed at all. So they're admitting they're violating your rights while they're saying they can constitutionally violate your rights, which they're calling not a violation at all. We got a bunch of drunken psychopaths in the halls of government, in the judicial branch, in the executive branch, and in the law enforcement branch. Unbelievable. So again, hats off to John Eagle for putting out this great video. Check it out. I'll leave the link in the chat room for you. Thanks to all the members who signed up during the course of this live stream. If you haven't done so already, become a member if you think this video is valuable. If you think it is valuable, like it, share it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Binge watch a couple of my popular videos. I'm trying to put out some education just like all these First Amendment auditors are. Give them support, because I'm telling you guys, we need a support network, because things are coming on this land. I'm going to upload a video tomorrow about this thing Trump wants to do with law enforcement, granting them qualified immunity above and beyond what they already have, which is nonsense, which is just going to form this Gestapo police state, in my opinion. So, watch as many videos you want. If you want to support the channel, the links are in the description. Grab a shirt, become a channel member. But really, more importantly, guys, you got to learn your rights, acquire knowledge, gain power, articulate that knowledge in a respectable manner, grab your cell phone, which is a portable courtroom, a portable jury, and a portable judge, and show them how cool and level-headed and knowledgeable you can be. And, fight these people every step of the way. And I'm not talking about physically fighting. I'm talking about metaphorically fighting on, use their own legal judo against them. Freedom is dangerous. It always has been and it always will be. The only thing more dangerous is waking up in the morning and realizing I don't have any freedom. And that's where we're heading if we don't fight for it. So appreciate you guys. I will see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to give this video a like before you leave. It really helps the channel a lot. Leave a comment because the engagement helps.